Good morning, everybody. Live from Las Vegas today. It is morning at my time. I'm here at the vBrownBag session at the Expo Hall of the VeeamOn conference. My name is Mike Resseler. I do work for Veeam. I am an EMEA Microsoft evangelist, and today I quickly want to talk to you a couple of minutes about deduplication in Microsoft Windows Server 2012 R2, which is a phenomenal feature that everybody who isn't using it yet should certainly check out. So let's get this started and let's have a quick look on what it can do and how it actually works. Now on the agenda, quickly, we're going to talk about deduplication, a bit about the installation, architecture. Not too deep, because we only got 20 minutes, but at least that you have a hang of it to make sure that you can use it within your production virus, or maybe better, first try it out in a proof of concept or something. We're quickly going to talk about virtual desktop infrastructure as well, because that is rather important if you're using that, and deduplication can help you very much over there. And then we got some results and conclusions that I saw the last couple of years working with this deduplication feature within Windows Server 2012. All right, so what is deduplication? If we're going to look at the Wikipedia, then we're going to see it's, eliminating duplicate or redundant information. This is rather important, certainly for a lot of these storage guys out there. Don't get me wrong, guys. I really love you. I do work for Veeam, so I need to love you as well. But just it's not only about the storage when we talk about deduplication. There are many other forms of deduplication as well. Windows Server 2012 and R2 deduplication is one of these differences. Now again, this is just on the storage layer, the software layer, but it could be in other devices, appliances, whatever you want, right? So deduplication is more than just storage enough. And important to know is that there are different methods that you can use when you are using deduplication. For example, you've got the inline versus the post-process methods. Now what that basically means is inline, that means that the moment you're writing away the data, it first gets deduplicated, and then it's written away already deduplicated on the disk. If you use the post-process, then you're actually writing it away to the disk first in its normal state, in its normal size, and then afterwards, at a certain interval, it will be looked at and be deduplicated. Important to know here, Microsoft is using the post-process method. It's got the advantage that it will use less resources on your system, but it's got the disadvantage that you need to have the storage first when writing away before it can get deduplicated. Other thing you need to do is look at the source versus target method, which means if your deduplicated data, is it going to be written away at the source, or is it going to be getting duplicated and then moved away to a target? Now if we talk target, normally we talk backup, right? We're backing up data, we're deduplicated, and we're not deduplicated to the source, we're really going to put it to a target repository or a target location and save it. Microsoft will use the source method, which means if you're writing away files on a file server, for example, and you're deduplicating that file server, it will stay there as well. So they are using the source method. And finally, you've got the methods on how you're going to deduplicate. Now we got file-based deduplication, block-based, and chunk-based deduplication. Now file-based is the least effective. Well, what it's going to do at that time is really compare every file one by one and see if you got differences. But that is really the least effective you can have within your environment. Block-based is a method that's known much more and been used much more. You take a certain amount size of blocks, you're going to compare them, and if you got doubles, you're going to remove the doubles and put pointers to that one specific block. What Microsoft uses is the chunk-based method, and the chunk-based method means it's using an algorithm to calculate what block size would be the best. The nice thing about it is that this could vary all the time, and in this way you're going to save even more storage than you're actually doing when using the block-based. And you don't have to care what size of block you're going to use. It's all been decided for you. So again, Microsoft using chunk-based method, source-based, and the post-process methods. All right. Very important is before you begin, because in the beginning when deduplication came out for Windows Server 2012, we had a few issues. And a lot of the deployments I saw failed because there was no planning. So what you need to do is you need to determine what kind of deployments you're going to do, what are your targets, is it worth deduplicating? You're going to have to look at the hardware requirements, do you meet those to make sure everything runs fluently and you're not running out of resources on your production service. You have to look at configurations which are not supported, and we're coming back to that one as well. You need to evaluate your savings, see if it's really good idea to deduplicate, and you're going to have to look at your policies and adapt the specific deduplication policies for Windows Server to your needs. Now let's have a quick look at what good target deployments are. Anything which is file shares, virtualization files, meaning images, stored VHD access or VHD files, deployment images, backup files, for example. If you're using Veeam Backup, that could be a great way of using deduplication together with us Veeam. Maybe you might be able to use it in a line of business servers, web servers. High performance computing could be a good target as well. Static content providers could be as well, but it depends a bit, and this is really a part where you need to do your evaluations before you're actually going to deploy it. Very poor is Hyper-V host. In fact, it's not even supported today, unless you're using VDI, but again, I'll come back to that, but today it's not supported. Do not deploy it on your WSUS servers. That might seem like a good target, but it will basically break WSUS, so it's not a good thing to do. If you're running SQL and Exchange, do not run deduplication on your volumes that hold that data, because that really would cause issues with those files. And any file above 1 terabyte could have an issue as well. Now, this is not a hard target. It's not that it is a hard limit, but you have to think that we need to deduplicate a file. It's a post-process. It needs to run in a couple of cycles, and anything above 1 terabyte will probably take a huge amount of time to be able to get deduplicated. All right, if we're going to look at the installation, it's really simple. To start with, if you're going to do this, use the evaluation tool first. And I'm going to repeat that at the end of the session. Use the evaluation tool, because this one is going to tell you whether you're going to have savings or not. So if you use this up front, you're going to know whether you're going to need it or not. So very important, DDP eval, you can run it on a volume, and then you know where you're going to save. Is it completely correct in saying how much savings it's going to be? Not really, but it's going to get close, and you will know at least how much you save. And then you need to start planning, right? So what do you need? Well, you need Windows Server 2012 at least. You need one single CPU, 4 gigs of RAM, and at least one SATA disk, and everything above will work as well. Now, these are limits. It works on less. I actually run it already on one CPU, 512 megabyte, but you know, that's not really production ready. So what I'm giving you here is production, and then you can run it without any issues. And then finally decide to install it, and what you're going to do is you're going to use the Add Roles and Features wizard, where you simply go with Server Manager, go to File and Storage Services. It's a bit hidden here. File and ISO Services, Data Deduplication, there we need to do. Or if you really are using PowerShell, you just can use Add Windows Feature, -name FS Data Deduplication, and it will do the work for you as well. Now, after that is done, the only thing you have done is actually install the feature or the role on the operating system. You're not deduplicating anything yet. Now, what you need to know is the moment we want to do deduplication, it's going to be per volume. So if you've got multiple volumes on your operating system, it really is going to be per volume that you need to enable it. Very important here, do not try to enable it on a system volume or a boot volume, because that won't work. Microsoft clearly states it won't work. You won't even be able to enable it as well. Your file system can be MBR, GPT, needs to be NTFS for the moment, but we know more support is coming for other file systems. You can use it on shared storage. You can use it when you're using MS failover clustering, no issues. You cannot use it yet on CSVs. However, as I said, VDI, but that's another topic. No REFS, already said that, and if it's a remotely mapped drive, then it won't work either. But you know, if you're in a proof of concept environment or a dev or test environment, you can easily put a USB 3 device or something like that to your server, see it as a volume, and then you can use it at that device as well. Now, I'm going to skip this video because of the interest of time, but it will be in when it gets distributed. So, a little bit about the architecture. What it really is, it's a filter driver that's built on top of the NTFS. So that means the operating system boots, the filter driver gets loaded, and then it starts working. It's also service-based, and I'll come back to that. But what it means is that some of these post-process tasks that run are being talked to by that service. And the service you're going to see in Windows Server 2012 is DDP SVC, and that is one doing all the heavy lifting in the background. There are quite a few jobs you can use. One of them is being the garbage collection, another one is optimization job, and finally you got the scrubbing. So I'm going to go a bit deeper in these 3 jobs because that's rather important. So the first one I want to talk about is the optimization job, and by default that will run every hour. And what it does is it's going to look at your policies. It's going to see if a file is ready for deduplication and then actually deduplicate that file. Now, the garbage collection is another job. It runs by default, if I'm not mistaken, 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, and it's really heavy lifting. Because when you delete files on your file system, in reality, you won't see it anymore in the file system, but the deduplicated blocks will still be on that file system. So you're not gaining storage at that time. You need to wait until the garbage collection is run, which is again by default 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, and that will clean up all of these blocks if they're not being used anymore. And the third job you've got is the scrubbing, and the scrubbing is also rather important because it will optimize your files. It will make sure that it's healthy and you don't get any conflicts or maybe even corruption of your files, because you're using data deduplication, you might get corruption. You do not want to have that. So very important jobs that you have here. Now, the first question I always get with data deduplication is, what about my performance? Because I'm running it on Windows Server, will I get a performance hit? And the truth is, when you're writing away files or data, you don't get the performance hit. Reason being simple, you're doing a post-process. So it's getting written normally, like you would do on any other server. And then, of course, when reading the files, you might get a little performance hit. Just think about the fact that you have a volume which is defragmented. That would be the same performance that you get, because in the end you just got a couple of blocks, you reference to it, and the pointer needs to jump. However, because it also includes a caching system, that means the first person probably would get a little performance hit, although in a production environment he probably won't even notice it. But the second one might already use the same blocks which are in the cache, which will speed up things. And then the more people are actually connecting, and if you got double blocks being used all the time, then you will see that it actually can win performance for some end users. But again, I'm coming back on that one when we talk VDI as well. I already talked about these jobs. I talked about optimization, data scrubbing, and garbage collection. I explained them. Important to know is that you can force these jobs as well with PowerShell. So the only comment you need to remember is start the do job and then the type of the job, which is optimization, scrubbing, or garbage collection. And that means you can force it. If you do this, then you're kind of pushing it into a foreground optimization process, which means it will use more resources from your server, which means your data will be deduplicated also faster. Maybe not the best thing to do during production hours, but if you have a lot of files that need to get deduplicated, you might want to start these jobs off hours during the weekend to get things faster. And if you really are deleting a lot of files and you need that space immediately and not during the weekend, you can, for example, start a garbage collection file to finally clean out those files as well. Comes, of course, to the question, how reliable is it? And I already told you we got this scrubbing job, checking if every block is still okay, are we still having no problem. But there are more things inside the algorithm and inside the service that make sure that everything keeps optimized. One of the things it uses is which we call hot spots. So if we got a block which has been referenced more than 100 times, we'll make sure that there's a second copy of that block, because if in case that one block gets corrupted, well, you lose 100 files, which would be very bad. Now, if you think 100 is too high and you want to change it to 50, for example, you can change it in your policies, but you remember you have to do those things through PowerShell, because this is one of the things you can't just do through the GUI anymore. Talking about PowerShell, there's so many PowerShell commandlets in Windows Server 2012. I'm a big fan, but I just cannot remember those. Even if you see those here about deduplication, they're not that much, and still I cannot remember them. The only one I need to remember is get-command-model deduplication, and will give me all the PowerShell commands I need. And then I use the most famous get-help commandlet to figure out what I need and how I need to do my work. Quickly about VDI, very important. If you're running Hyper-V VDI and you're running it on a scale-out file server on an SMB CSV, then deduplication is supported. So imagine that you got 100 virtual machines running Windows 7 or 8 or 8.1 or even maybe 10 already for that matter. You can run it together with deduplication and save space. Why would you do it? Well, space, of course, to start with, because imagine all of these operating systems running on your storage. It's costing a lot of money. Do not forget about the post-processing method, so you need to kind of put a couple of VMs first, deduplicate them, put another few VMs, deduplicate them, and so on. And actually, because of that caching mechanism I just explained, you're probably going to gain speed as well for those VDIs. Because if you think about that cache, you think about the traditional boot storm you have with VDIs in the morning, most of the blocks that you're going to use for VDIs are all the same. It's all an operating system. And Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1 share a lot of those common blocks, which means they're the same, they're in the cache, and the speed up will be higher of all of those virtual machines. So no more lagging for your end users. Their VDI will boot up much faster, they can't drink 2 coffees anymore, and they can get to work as fast as possible. Right. Some benefits which we see, these are actually not my numbers, these are numbers from Microsoft, but every time I've been deploying it, been using it, working with customers, they're more or less in that area. For general documents that we see, we got like 50-60% savings that we can have. More the Word, Office documents, they're already kind of optimized, so the savings are a little bit less, 30-50%, which is still quite good. If you got applications that are capable of being deduplicated, you might get 70-80%. And if you got libraries of VAT, templates, Vim images, stuff like that, you got 80-95%, which is just awesome. Couple of quick tips I wanted to give you before you actually start doing this. Plan. I told you in the beginning, plan. Do not enable it from the beginning. Take your 60 terabyte file server and say deduplicate, because you're going to run into a lot of problem. Plan this in advance, take the step by step, and make sure that it is not doing everything at the same time, because your production will be very slow. Use it with branch cache if you're using it. You will save bandwidth. You will save storage on the branch as well. If you got failover clusters, not be afraid to use it. If you use DFS replication, it can work together because they basically don't know from each other that they're there, which means it will work as well. And if you have still those servers that you need to install sys, please do not do it because that's not supported. Luckily, we don't see that anymore, or not a lot anymore out in the field. But if your server has this installed single instance storage, don't do it because that will break everything. And it remains data. So whatever you do, you are really making blocks referencing different files to one block. Things can go wrong. Take backups, talk to your backup vendor, make sure it's supported, and ask him how it is going to be stored on the backup targets as well. And with that, I'm actually done. 20 minutes, it's not a lot. I normally do a 1 hour, which go more in detail, but I hope it got you interested, and just check it out because it's a great feature, it works fantastically, and it can save you a lot of money in your environment.